Amen and amen. All right, so we have Sister Kyla and we got Brother Habidi. Habidi, what's going on, man? How you doing today?
How you doing, Brett? How are you? You hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So what's going on? What is your objection?
Very good. I made a comment saying that gospel writers are anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
And you told me to call in that you could prove me wrong. Can you please do that?
Sure. So you're talking about all the gospels. So you're saying that basically that...
Yes, before.
Right. So you're saying that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were not written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
They're anonymous, correct?
Okay. And what is your religion?
This is according to Christian scholarship, too. Not just me.
Which Christian scholars?
Bruce Metzger.
Mm-hmm. Who else?
Bart Ehrman. I mean, it's consensus among scholars.
Okay. So, number one, have you ever heard of the Papias that was written between 95 and 120 AD?
I'm sorry, the what?
It's called the Papias, Papias.
I can't say I have.
Okay. So the early church fathers, who were already gathering all the manuscriptural evidence, had already identified Matthew and Mark as the authors of those books since as early as back then.
Can I stop you right there for a second?
Sure.
Do you know the earliest carbon dated manuscript of the New Testament? It's called the P52. That's early 2nd century, I believe 125 AD. The size of a credit card. That is the earliest manuscript you have.
Oh, yeah?
Carbon dated of the New Testament. It contains verses of John, Gospel of John. Nothing very relevant, to be honest.
Okay, so make all your objections because I don't want to keep interrupting you.
No, I don't want to make no. We can go back and forth if that's okay with you.
No, make all your objections because going back and forth.
And by the way, you have a co-host that's a male.
Yeah,
that was just speaking earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he said something about Takia. Takia's lying to non-believers. I believe he said, correct?
God TV, I don't know. I'm not sure what he's referring to.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that's a Shia concept. You won't find that in the Qur'an at all. I challenge him to find me that in the Qur'an. That's just a side note. We could stick to the main topic. So let him do his research. See if he can find that in the Qur'an. And he can bring it up later.
Okay. So here, I'm going to address what you said. You're parroting the claim that the Gospels were anonymous because you heard Bart Ehrman or someone else say it on a podcast. But here's your true problem. It's not true historically, textually, or even logically. All right. So first, no gospel manuscript in existence has ever been found without the name of the author attached to it. From the earliest Greek codices, we have Sinaiticus, Vitanicus, and Beze. They all say according to Matthew, according to Mark, and so on. So if they were truly...
they say bye.
Okay, so on my show, when I'm talking, you are not.
I'm sorry, I've never seen your show. This is all new to me.
That's just basic human courtesy. So again, they all say according to Matthew, right? According to Mark, and so on. So if they were truly anonymous, I don't understand how it is that we have 0 copies without those names, which brings me to my second point. Early Christian leaders that are close to the events confirm the authors. So Papias, the writing was around 100 AD, says that Mark wrote what Peter preached and Matthew compiled the sayings of Jesus. Irenaeus from 180 AD flatly says that Matthew wrote his gospel in Hebrew and Mark in Rome based on Peter's preaching, Luke as Paul's companion, and John as the beloved disciple. So none of these were like from 500 years later, okay? They were leaders in the 2nd century quoting earlier sources, some of whom had direct lines to the apostles themselves. So we can talk about Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman does say that the Gospels were quote unquote anonymous, but even he admits that the names were attached very early, which you conveniently left out. And they were likely attached by the early 2nd century, according to Bart Ehrman. He doesn't just believe the names are accurate. That's not anonymous. But I think that the biggest thing for your point, that the one that you were trying to make, is that if the Gospels were anonymous and floating around without names, how did every church from Antioch to Alexandria to Rome all agree on the same authors by the 2nd century? So you're telling me that every Christian from Spain to Syria just randomly picked the same 4 names. That's essentially what you're insinuating. That by the biggest miracle on earth, everybody who was looking at these manuscripts attributed them to the same people. And honestly, that's what happens when people get your theology from what you want to hear from TikTok from Bart Ehrman instead of actually reading the evidence. So I yield back to you.
Okay, first of all, you said my P52 claim is incorrect.
Say what you got to say, man. Go ahead, keep going.
No, I'm asking you. This is the conversation. If you're saying I'm lying, if I'm incorrect, there's no point even talking to you.
Go ahead. If you're gonna make the claim, if you're gonna make the claim about P52, let me know the evidence that you have, and then I'll rebuttal it.
You didn't even know what the P52 was until I just mentioned it.
No, I know what it is. I've mentioned it on the stream. I have mentioned it on the stream over and over. So don't tell me what I knew. I literally just picked apart everything that you said.
I asked you if you said, listen, now you're being disingenuous. I asked you if you knew what the P52 was. You told me no. Hello?
Yes.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. You could still look up the information and find out in a matter of moments. As far as your lying in the Muslim faith and all that, I've got the information for you myself. You can look in book 32, Hadith 6309. It says you can lie under the conditions of reconciliation in a relationship. You can lie.
Can you tell me that? Listen, I don't have a Hadith book in front. I'm sorry. What's your name?
What? You don't have it already, huh? What happened there? You were just getting on this man for P52.
I asked you, find me in the Quran where it says this. Then you go to anonymous Hadith, which I'm not even sure what the grade. Why don't you tell me what the grading is?
Well, this is actually something the scholars have actually talked about. This is
tell me what the grading is.
You asked me to find information where Muslims
in the Quran. I asked you in the Quran, find me a verse that says you're able to lie.
The Quran does actually have things very similar to. Why does he keep interrupting for while I'm talking? I'm going to give the information. I'm going to give the information right now. Why do you keep interrupting for? Why do you keep cutting me off? That's dishonest. That's not intellectually honest.
Listen, I told you, find me in a verse in the Quran. And you go to
dishonest to cut people off. It means you don't want to hear what I have to say. You understand that, right? That kind of behavior is not intellectually honest. All right. So back to what I was saying. The Hadith, book 32, 6309. It clearly says in acts of war, you can deceive your enemy. You can deceive people that you deem as a threat, and also to reconcile relationships that are having issues. Mediation. So there you go.
Can I comment now?
Go ahead.
Of course.
But if you're going to comment.
In acts of war, you're able to lie. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, I believe it.
So in war, you can lie to your enemy.
You can lie to people that you perceive as your enemy. If you think that in a debate or something is considered some kind of issue or a threat to your belief, you're allowed to lie.
What did you say exactly? You said in war. You said in war you can lie to your enemy. That's what you said.
That's a war or a problem or a conflict or a threat.
You know, there's a big reason Christianity is dying. That America is no longer a Christian nation. There's a reason that England, France, much of Europe.
Hold on. Stop. Okay, stop. I just muted you. Hold on. I'm gonna make something abundantly clear to you. If you think for a second that Christianity is dying, then you need to ask yourself, why is it that the Pew Research Center, who is not even remotely Christian friendly, has Christianity surpassing 3 billion people by the year 2050 and has the Nation of Islam shrinking significantly by then? Now, ask yourself.
Can I answer?
Yeah.
Okay, answer.
Answer. Yeah, I
How
said
many
yeah.
practicing Christians are they? Do they practice or just by association, by culture? You said the Nation of Islam. Nation of Islam is a very small sector.
You are trying to nitpick. You are trying to nitpick. You are the one who said that Christianity is dying, right? Now you are trying to itemize what Christians are truly practicing or not. Stay on topic, brother. First of all, now let me go back. Everything that I said that completely dismantled all your lies that you told about Bible attribution, right? You didn't address a single bit of it. This is exactly why I have such a problem. This is exactly why my question says, who's better at lying?
Your homeboy came in and started talking about a hadith.
All right, brother, if you cut me off one more time.
You didn't even speak on it correctly.
Okay, so again.
Excuse me?
You didn't even speak on that. You didn't speak on that. You came in here and you're trying to interrupt people. You're not actually addressing the claims that are made. You're making a claim. It was destroyed and you have no way to refute it. So go back to it. So if the Bible authors are anonymous because you don't seem to be able to stay on one subject, then address anything that I said about how the Gospels were already attributed to the people who wrote them from that early on. And how was it that so many people from Spain all the way to Syria already knew who wrote those books if they were supposedly anonymous? Address that and only that.
Can you answer me where the Bible was compiled?
I'm going to ask you again. You look like a grown man, right? You got a beard. You're calling into a show. You think that you know what you're talking about. I asked you a simple question. It is simple. All right. I know that you're used to believing what the Quran says. I know you're used to being lied to. I am asking you to address what I said. Address what I said or leave the show. How do you explain your lie that you told that I busted up so thoroughly you're hoping that I continue to leave it alone? I'm not going to leave it alone.
Bust up anything, so
I'm not going to leave it alone. No, I'm not going to stop anything because you didn't address it. So address it like a man.
You asked me to call in. You said I was a coward. I couldn't call in or I was afraid or whatever. I called in and this is how you treat your guests.
Maybe this is
a Christian thing. I don't understand, but Muslims don't treat their guests like this.
You throw out
congratulations.
You throw out something you think is a gotcha topic, and then you interrupt people, and then jump to a different topic when you're shown that you're wrong.
And you know what? On top of that, you wanted to name people like Bart Ehrman. So there are scholars who affirm traditional authorship. Scholars who affirm the traditional authorship are Richard Buckham, Martin Hengel, and Craig Bloomberg. And I have links that actually show the historical proof that can be traced all the way back to the original authorship of those gospels. So again,
it's more than just Bart Ehrman too.
Congratulations. You named Bart Ehrman. I named 3, and I can continue on. Can you?
Well, I don't have the computer in front of me. Now, do I have my phone? I'm talking to you right now.
All right. Well,
I can go online and get a whole bunch more.
You can get a bunch more.
You have a whole setup. Do you have a whole setup for your own narrative?
What I hear is an excuse.
Now, can I answer your question?
Answer the question.
Can I answer the question? Or are you going to boot me off?
Answer the question. I've been asking you to answer the question. Answer it.
You said, how did all these countries come up with the same names, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Where was the Bible compiled? What's the earliest complete manuscript of the Bible? You said it before. Do you know it?
Yeah. So here's the thing. When I asked you to answer the question.
No. Okay. Codex Sinaiticus.
Yes.
Is
I
the
know.
earliest
I read it to
complete?
you.
Okay. Very good. Now, it was printed out and given to everybody, correct?
There was no printing back then. Bro, you don't look. You know what? Okay. Here. Guys, if you're going to call the show, at least know that there was no. Did this guy? Okay. You know what? I need a minute.
Well, while he's taking care of that, how you doing there, Kyla? I also wanted to finish out on one of his last claims that he made. He said that Christianity's dying in America. It's true that atheism has got a 2% rise, and it's true that Islam has had a little bit of success. However, according to stats, over 2 to 7 million Muslims globally have embraced Christianity in the last 20 years. Many have paid a steep price. In some regions, 70% of converts face family disinheritance, while 90% in the Middle East endure job loss or eviction. Yet behind these numbers are stories of courage. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. According to stats, over 7 million Muslims have joined Christianity. So, yes.
And you know what, guys? I had to leave. I had to leave for a second. I have to clear my head, because it is astonishing to me that this boy comes in here and says, wasn't it true that the Codex Sinaiticus was printed out and distributed? There were no printing presses back then. What the hell are you talking about, bro? Oh God! Do you guys see why? Do you guys see why?
Don't you know he was wanting quill and ink and.
Yeah,
all 66 books handwritten, and then here you go, brother Matt. Here's your copy. Here you go, brother Mike. Here's your copy.
Right.
Here you go, brother God TV. Here's your copy. Here you go, set your copy. Here's your copy. That's what he wanted.
Right, and that's the thing is that you tell them, okay, now address. Now here's my thing. When people make a claim, and you guys are all in the chat right here. I'm sorry, I got to fix the camera here because I got up and walked away, and the camera tracks me, and then it just. So here. You make a claim. You don't want to actually address any of the claim. And here's the thing. I gave him names, right? I gave him proof, and he wasn't able to do it. So here's my thing, guys. If you are going to make a claim and I rebuttal your claim, I'm not rebuttaling your claim by building a narrative or by asking you questions. I'm rebuttaling your claim by giving you the facts. And that's exactly why I say what I say about atheism and about Islam, because no matter what, you don't need to build a narrative and a claim if you already have history on your side. And that to me is like, yo, what is going on here? And he says that the printed Sinaiticus established authorship, which isn't even remotely true. And I'll prove it to you guys. Look, the Muslim claimed that the Codex Sinaiticus was printed and distributed. And that's how gospel authorship became established. Not only is that wrong, guys, it is historically impossible and laughable. First of all, the printing press didn't even exist until 1,000 years after Sinaiticus was written. The Gutenberg press wasn't invented until the 1440s. The Codex Sinaiticus is dated to 350 AD. Sinaiticus painstakingly was copied by hand. Likely the scribes working in Christian monastic communities. So it wasn't printed. It was actually hand copied, and the authorship was attributed because the thousands of people that were involved in copying these manuscripts knew who the authors were because they had the original copies, right? So no, it wasn't printed, and
well, that's what he wanted.
Right.
He wanted, here's your copy, here's my copy, here's
right.
Brother Mike's.
May I deal with another claim he just made? He said, then why are there churches closing around America? Well, we live in a digital age, ladies and gentlemen, where guys like Brother Maverick and myself can have channels and radio stations where we have hundreds of thousands of people listening and watching. Brother Maverick, just himself alone, has more viewers than all the churches in my area. So a lot of Christians are now using social media in order to be able to hear their favorite preachers or hear what's happening, or ministers and fellowship and all that. You don't really need a building if you're able to reach people on a global level at this point. So just because a building goes down doesn't mean the word of Christ has gone away, my friends.
Exactly.